Hey guys, this is John with the Alpha Channel update for Monday, July 29th, 2024 here in Los Angeles. And I would like to invite you to check out The Legacy of a Mad Scientist, The Legend of Ashley Fox. 26 hours of awesome audiobook science fiction here on YouTube for you guys to listen to. We also have a comic book, Ashley Fox, The Last Valkyrie, where Ashley Fox has to take on some Pizzagate bad guys, and in order to beat them, she gets the help of a Valkyrie, who then inducts her into their order. And yeah, that's free for you guys here in the description as a PDF to check out. The audiobooks you can also download as ebooks from Smashwords or buy them on Amazon.com. But today we're going over Zero Number 4. And the reason I'm doing a comic book a day, in addition to the fact that there's no good new stuff coming out, I'm working on a comic book with a friend, and I'm working on one on my own. And I really want to look at how to compress the storytelling as quickly as possible, which is interesting because this is the 4th issue of Zero, and it feels like the book just started. The first 3 issues were throwaways. They really were. Backstory. It was sort of like a half an hour of the movie before you get to the beginning of the main plot. And unfortunately, this main plot is a really small microcosm. Basically, you've got the main character, Edward Zero, this guy. And here we have the bad guy, Carlisle, who he's been sent to kill, and his handler, Zsek, who sent him to kill this guy, Carlisle. Carlisle is now down living in Rio de Janeiro. He's a lot like Colonel Kurtz, if Colonel Kurtz hadn't been a colonel and he'd been an assassin who decided he didn't like working for his handler anymore. And Edward has confronted him directly. Instead of just killing him with a rifle, he's come down to have this out face to face. He wants to know what Carlisle knows, and Carlisle tells him the story of his life, about how he was a guy once upon a time, and he decided to get out of the bullshit, and he had a girlfriend, and that worked out for a little while, but not forever. And eventually this is actually pretty cool. We're having this conversation between Edward and Carlisle. You think it's just the two of them, and then you get what's called a reveal. This was used really, really well in the very beginning of Shaun of the Dead, where Shaun's at the bar with his girlfriend, and they're having a conversation, and then you pull back and you see her friends, and then you pull back and you see his friend Ed. And this is the same sort of thing. You guys were having a conversation between Carlisle and Edward, and you pull back to realize all his friends are sitting here, and these are the kids in his gang. And he goes on to tell them that Edward and I are going to have a fight to the death. He's going to kill me, and I don't want you to interrupt us. So he knows he's going to lose the fight, or he's planning to lose the fight. And he asks them to remember what he taught them, and they said, listen to your heart, which is a good message for gangsters. And so then their fight starts. And it's a decent fight. This is pretty interesting. After a bunch of punches and kicks and whatnot, they go down to cars, and they have a race. You see here, Carlisle jumps off the building, and Edward follows him, and they go down and steal a couple of cars, or those are their cars. Doesn't really matter which way it is. But what happens is they're running away from the guys who could have interrupted the fight. I really like this bit here. This is a spin out. This is the car rolling, and you see up here it's on its side. That's pretty clever, or it's on its top. And so Edward comes over, and they have more of a fight. They really, Now, what's interesting about this fight and about this storytelling specifically, you get the idea at the end of these 2 pages when Carlisle takes Edward's eye with a piece of glass. You get the idea that he could have ended the fight at any time. And there's a bit earlier in the story where he tells Edward that he has a bunch of dirt on Zizek, the boss, and that when he dies, it's all going to come out. And Edward, of course, wants to know where the dirt is and give it to him, and he won't give it to him. And so he finally does murder him. And Carlisle, I realized, has gotten what he wanted. 1, he wanted to die. 2, he wanted to die violently and publicly, and to bring about the revenge against Zizek. If he died old and in bed, there's a good chance that his insurance policies, that would have been 20 years old at that point, wouldn't have, Zizek probably would have already been dead. As it is this way, all that dirt on him is going to come out. Edward, of course, is in the hospital, and we finally understand what the story is about. This is basically the Bourne Identity, and he's realized that his handler is the criminal. It's sort of like working for Jews and realizing they want you to do anti-white propaganda. This, however, now here's another thing I want to talk about. There have been these little story bits at the end, and this is the 4th illustrator on the 4th issue. The second one had Tradmore. The first one I don't know, I didn't recognize. The third one I didn't recognize. This 4th one I didn't recognize. It's not bad art. It's very functional. I like it, actually. It's Spanish. It's probably Brazilian. It's brutal. But what's really interesting is this. I suspect this scene, they couldn't get anyone to draw it. Basically, this scene is really well written. It's very Cormac McCarthy in that there's no quotations for dialogue and there's no attributions for dialogue, so you don't know who said what. But in this scene, a guy is being interrogated for being a spy, and you don't know the relationship of anyone in the room except that his interrogator is Zizek and that Carlisle is also there. And it becomes apparent that the person that he's reporting to, they're asking who his handler is, and it's Zizek. So I don't know if it's with cameras or what the situation is, but the guy being tortured is being tortured by his own handler and accused of being a spy. And at some point in the torture, he realizes that he's not going to be rescued, that it's not a farce, that it's not a loyalty test, and that he stands up to him and he gets shot. And that's a scene that no one wanted to illustrate. And that's honestly where the book starts. And obviously that was probably how it was pitched. So certainly none of the first 3 books are what sold it. This is where the story starts. And there's only 18 issues, so it's a very small microcosm. It's going to be interesting to see how they expand it to shrink it again. That's what they're going to have to do. That's what every issue has been so far. They're expanding the microcosm and then keeping it small, folding it back in on itself. So these are just sort of story concepts and tips. I don't want to criticize art. I did criticize art yesterday with Smokes the Fox. I didn't set out to do this channel as a literature criticism channel. I always thought comic book criticism channels were pretty cringe, and that's not what I really wanted to do here. But I do want to talk about literature, and this is the literature I want to focus on. And when it's good, I'm going to say it's good, and when it's not, I'm going to say it's not. Mostly I'm going to do this as education for myself and just recording it and putting it out there for anyone who wants to read my stuff or work with me. I don't know what we would work together on. But, yeah, 0 is still 0, regardless of whether or not they had to kick someone off the team. I don't know, what else is there to talk about? I did some really good writing today. I got a chapter done for the story I'm working on with a friend, and that's all, pretty much. Some cooking. Still got a lot more to do. Day's still early, so. All right, talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.